Hello, this is the supplementary presentation for the room scene with ray tracing done by me, Nikolai Figurin, and Benjamin. We've created this scene using the ray tracing package provided by Dr. Tong Yu and Samuel R. Buss of UC San Diego. And our scene includes primitive objects, imports from various sources such as Blender, which ended up being more trouble than not, and textures, lights, different materials, etc. Everything you'd normally expect in a project of this sort. Our inspiration came from having a large space to have enough flexibility to put in however many objects we would like without crowding it a whole lot, and still having it make sense. We wanted multiple lights in the source, and originally we settled on a small room, not unlike Andy's room from Toy Story. The reason behind that was you could have many different objects of different categories in there without really clashing with the theme of it all. And at the end of it, we've actually ended up taking things out for visibility and speed, and due to the limitations of size within the ray tracing package itself. This is the original layout for the room. Over here in the side view, we can see the originally we actually had a ceiling, but we ended up taking that out for better visibility so you could get better angles, and half of this wall, well, a quarter of this wall is cut off to get a nice shot of the mirror. We have the computer on a desk, which was created with primitive objects. We had 3 posters. We had a water cooler, which got done but then later taken out. We had a mirror on the side, a window on the other. The 3 posters, of course. We've had a little kitten on the windowsill, but we ended up moving the cat over onto the stool in the middle of the room. And we had tiles which were programmatically created. Now, we've also done quite a bit of textures, some of which were used, some of which weren't. We tried to stick to programmatic approaches for as much as we could, just for the sake of learning and being comfortable with what we've been using. And of course we had some models that were added into the scene. Now this is what the scene looked like when it's rendered. You see a few Blender objects that were imported, including the cup and the cat. A few primitives, a lot of variation in the materials on the objects, but generally it was a little toned down from the original plan, mainly because of the horrendous lack of speed and responsiveness once you've been including enough objects. Initially, the desktop, which is now made of primitive objects, was an import from Blender, and it was a Macintosh computer, which was, after optimization, about 1,500 triangles, and that maybe quadrupled rendering time, and not just during the ray tracing segment, but also during regular navigation around the scene. So let's take a look at the code. Let's open up Visual Studio, which is what we've been switching back and forth between Windows, Mac, and Linux, and let's open the most recent ray tracing package. And here we have everything that's included as far as the libraries go. This is mainly the same collection of libraries that was also in the Linux implementation and the very first ray tracing package that was provided to us. At the very top we have the simple colors, light, etc., as well as lighting values. We have our materials for the floor, for the walls, specularity, reflection, and this is the general approach you'd expect to see. We've commented a lot of things out to save on space and get a little more responsiveness out of this, so the scene doesn't look nearly as complete as it was, but at the same time it is much quicker. So here we have a cylinder for one of the stool cylinders, as in one of the stool legs, and this is what it would look like. We use a certain material which was preset at the very top of the file, set a center axis, everything that you'd normally expect. For the stool top itself, we include a texture RBG image which points to red leather 1, which is no longer red because we have an overlay making it green. which is also done programmatically. We have the Porsche poster, we have a second poster, third poster, and I guess at the bottom of this all there is an import somewhere here. Let's actually search for that. Right, it's in RayTrace KD not set up. So if we go to the RayTrace KD.cpp file and we search for cat, for example, we will eventually find our cat4 object. This is the fourth revision of the cat. The first download was quite different from what we ended up using. And since the actual scale of the scene was so small, we had to shrink the cat by maybe, I don't know, 1/50th of its original size. So this is loading the object, and this is actually the only bit that requires a library which does not work properly on Linux. However, if we take this bit out, including for the F15 which we've used and any other imports, then we have no issues rendering the scene on Linux right out of the box with very minimal changes. I think we only need to change the include under RayTrace setup to be gl/glut, not just glut. So let's render this out. So here it is. This is the scene when it's open. You have your basic output for number of objects, number of nodes, leaves, and empty leaves. So we can navigate a little around our scene as we want. We can zoom in and zoom out, or rather change perspective, more like. And let's see how it creates a ray tracing of the scene, and eventually it will. And we'll actually see quite a bit of useful output in the command line here. So this is actually taking longer than expected, and it might be because I'm recording the video, but there we go. We see multiple materials here, quite a bit of shadows going in all sorts of directions, and very interesting is that on the left in the terminal we have, well, CMD, we have the number of rays traced, which is basically the number of pixels seen on screen, shadow feelers, nodes traversed, etc., all of the usual statistics that you would expect. Now you can see the mirror working here, you can see the textures showing up perfectly fine. We see the little cat on the stool, and we can of course move that around and retrace it all we want. One thing that is good to pay attention to is the materials on the computer and the desk, as well as the cup itself, mainly everything in this area, because they have, I believe every object has its own material and its own reflective properties. So I should have zoomed in, but nevertheless you can still see how the shadows are reflected and how the other objects could be seen depending on the angle. But that's about it, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you.